What's up, kittens? Welcome back to Operation Unbothered. I'm going to jump right into today's conversation about codependency. A Course in Miracles asks, your question, which you must ask yourself very honestly, is whether you are willing to demonstrate that your parents have not hurt you. Unless you are willing to do this, you have not forgiven them. One byproduct of doing Operation Unbothered that I had not considered was the emotional labor of sharing my insights, strategies, and reflections on my own past traumas, experiences, disappointments, successes, and integration to my current timeline, and that some topics could be activating for my inner child, my bodysuit, and other representatives. It happened. I have been very activated today. And because I was activated, I knew that it was up to me to be able to self-regulate and recalibrate back into a safe energy, being able to be feeling safe within my own body and nourishing myself in the ways that I know how. This morning, I decided that I was going to do a trauma release exercise, or it's called a TRE, and I linked the video below as it gives the different steps to actually go through a TRE experience on your own. There's several actually on YouTube that you can just kind of look through and see who you are driving with most. And this exercise was shared with me a couple years ago, and when I'm experiencing or feeling like a very intense somatic response, such as pain, constriction, or discomfort, I use TRE along with meditation and yoga to help recalibrate my nervous system. One thing that I do, I don't know if this is necessary, I just realized that this is right here, hashtag umbrella, Ella. I am not sure. This is just something that I do, and how I integrate using the TRE is that after I remind myself of what all the emotions are, I actually go ahead and listen to another meditation to allow my body to do its thing while also being able to have my mind be focused on something that is not... The purpose of me listening to an additional meditation during the time of when the biggest thing about TRE is that your body will start trembling, and that's the intention. It's the release, relaxation of the body and the muscles and the nervous system to then be able to let go of this energy that is trapped inside of the body. And one thing, suggestion, and I always, yes, this is an intentional absolute, share with others to stay hydrated, to support the process of moving the energy throughout the body. I actually did a quick Google, and the Mayo Clinic confirms that water makes up about 60% of a person's body weight. So really making sure to be flushing out using fresh water to flush out the water that is helping facilitate this experience of moving any trauma. And I'm sharing this because for me, throughout a majority of my childhood and my 20s, I ignored the signs of distress my bodysuit was communicating with me, oftentimes either entering a freeze mode and then binge eating. This is currently something that I'm actually working on. I think I'll probably talk about this a little bit more in depth in another video. Or disassociating from my experience, or ignoring my emotions, or entering fight mode by exploding into angry, aggressive monologues. As I was groomed to normalize as a child an environment of chaos, anger, aggression, which was passive, verbal, and emotional, and a high level of people-pleasing that resulted in a dysregulated nervous system and no personal boundaries with myself or others, and typically going for that violent communication. And really, I would consider this all to be ingredients that nourished my codependency that I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive into today. I did not know what I did not know until I did. Until I realized that my behaviors and my mindset were not healthy, not normal, and very much needed to be altered. I was running these streets unhealed and from my perspective, and I take radical accountability for this, traumatizing others. My codependency, now from my expanded perspective, was evident in all my relationships, from my intimate relationships, business relationships, my friendships, family members, and through various tools such as reading the book Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping, I have forgiven myself for my own personal neglect. It was astonishing how far I would go to sacrifice myself for the crumbs and variable external validation of others. And once I was able to make that, to take a macro and micro view of what was going on in my life, I was able to identify the behavior patterns, the mindset patterns, and make the choice to begin again and replace my maladaptive ways with ones that supported my highest frequency. And let me tell you, it has been a journey, y'all. So, asking the question, where do I begin and where do you end? How did I know that I was codependent? In a blog post by Terri, the author of Boundary Boss, she states, codependency is often a result of some kind of dysfunction in childhood, like lack of safety, having an alcoholic parent, being neglected, etc. In adulthood, codependents tend to take on the emotions and burdens of others. They want to control things when their partner comes home from a bad day because they also feel those negative emotions, and as if the bad day happened to them or that they must fix it. This essentially means codependents make other people's problems their problems. Previously guilty of this. Codependency is not just in romantic relationships. You can be codependent with friends, siblings, and even your boss. And for me, my codependency looks like unsolicited advice, attempting to mind read, feeling resentful for doing things for others that they didn't ask for and then not being acknowledged, inability to witness somebody close having an emotional reaction without also having that emotional reaction, and an irrational sense of I need to vindicate this person for experiencing any discomfort in their universe. Thankfully, this was me in another dimension and another timeline, and I'm glad that I'm able to compost those experiences and that I have the awareness of those being my particular manifestations, behavioral patterns, mindsets of codependency. So if I ever feel like I'm drifting into any of those lanes or behaviors, I'm able to be like, whoa, let's stop, let's see what's going on. Why am I trying to do this particular behavior? Am I feeling unsafe? Am I feeling uncomfortable? Like really being able to have that be a signal to be like, hello, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And A Course in Miracles reinforces this with, it is your duty to establish beyond doubt that you are totally unwilling to side with or identify with anyone's misperception of you, including your own. And for me, recognizing and healing my inner child and up-leveling my mindset to recognize the maladaptive behaviors and patternings was surface level easy. I was able to find the resources, I was able to find the tools. It was the application of the said tools that first made me feel very, very uncomfortable and feeling like I had no idea what I was doing. When in reality, I had no idea what I was doing because I had never been that version of me before. Someone aware and actively healing their codependency. Someone that was not just going to accept whatever was happening in the 3D as being the truth and having that my inner child, little a, react. Instead, it was more of finding, I think in Buddhism, they say this is also in behavioral science, of having the stimulus, whatever that 3D experience is, having a pause, and then having a response. Rather, before, when I was operating in a codependent mindset and allowing my inner child to essentially drive this bodysuit, there was no pause. It was always like stimulus, act, stimulus, act. And that's where I ended up getting myself into many different situations that were not aligned with me and ended up wreaking more havoc on my life because of the fact that I wasn't allowing myself to actually digest what was happening. I was just knee-jerk reaction to what I was experiencing, because as a child, there was minimal amount of space for me to actually have a pause. There was no teaching of self-regulation or how to calm oneself down, or something that I really, really like to implement, and I do this even at work, of flooding. And this idea that it takes about 20 minutes for the nervous system to settle down. So if I'm getting activated, or if there's a stimulus that is causing me to to have me activate something that is of a codependent response, I can say, like, I'm flooding, and then know that I give myself essentially a 20-minute self-regulation timeout, or staff or coworkers that they can also have that space and grace. The container of my previous relationship provided me with ample opportunities. Underline, bold, italicized, ample opportunities to be this new version of me, as I was able to practice the nonviolent communication skills, engaging in self-study and learning more about the impact of my inner child trauma, the shadow self, and boundary setting. And I will say that, kind of going back to the original quote from A Course in Miracles, where I have forgiven all the people in my life. Sometimes I am activated, and then I'm like, okay, I got to go back into my forgiveness practice. However, I am the type of person that believes that no wrong has been done, that all interactions, all experiences have happened in order for me to be able to be here right now. So my biggest test of self-love, self-acceptance, and radical forgiveness was when I cut the energetic cord with my past relationship. I send a one-way, and this is something that I do frequently, that if someone that has been unzippered from my universe, or I've cut the cord with them, if they come up into my mind, I try my very best to just acknowledge that they're coming up, see kind of like what is happening in my universe, and then I send what I call a one-way spiritual energetic postcard. One way, because it doesn't have to come back to me. I'm not looking for anything. This is more of just my own personal practice of wanting to bless other people, to be love first, not coming from anger or resentment or anything of that sort, unforgiveness really. I send a one-way spiritual postcard of love and light, blessings and abundance, and just gratitude for the people who have journeyed with me in my past selves and my past timelines to, again, allow me to be here right now. And through various self-exploration, including a podcast episode of To Be Magnetic, I learned that I was not securely attached. I was an enmeshed codependent. Alert, alert, alert. And as a person who loves to learn, I immediately began consuming books, podcasts, articles, YouTube videos to figure out like what strategies were available for somebody who was identifying as a codependent, and then how to make the repair attempt to begin again with people in my life that I was interested in maintaining that energetic exchange, or figuring out how to cut the cord, essentially. And there is a lot of content on YouTube. There are a lot of books. There's a lot of, I feel like now, in this particular time of being alive, there's a much larger emphasis on mental health and being able to, like, the word trauma and therapy and peer support, substance use, like there's a lot more, I feel like access and availability to have the conversations about these sorts of topics, that even for myself at times, I've become overwhelmed of just like how much stuff is available. And for me, I have always had the mindset of that I am an experiment, and that for me, it's totally groovy for me to go try something, see how it works, and if it doesn't work, see if there's a way to kind of amend it or change it up a little bit to make it more aligned with me, or having the space and grace to be like, this did not work, gotta go, and then finding something else. So I really encourage you that if you're in the place where, if any of the stuff that I've just mentioned so far has resonated, of like maybe you're wondering if you're codependent, and I'm not here to give that identity to anyone. This is a self-identity for myself of a recovering codependent, that there are many things to experiment with, and really just having the growth mindset to say like, okay, here are some things, I'm interested in this, how can I implement this into my life, and being okay with not necessarily holding on in that fixed mindset of, I found this one tool and I need to just use this tool. There are so many different ways to support a person's journey, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more about some other strategies that I have used to allow me to remain unbothered when, now as a recovering codependent, that when those sorts of behavioral patterns or mindset patterns come up, I'm able to acknowledge, affirm what's happening, and then be able to see, just like the TRE, do I need to do something about it, or is it just kind of a floating thought that's coming into my universe, and then I can let it go. So there's many different ways I think that a person can really engage, not only in just like their codependency experience, just like in any area that is seeming to be maladaptive or problematic or really just not in alignment anymore with a person. Okay, the next part. What's love got to do with it? You must understand that love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. If he abandons the pursuit, it's because it wasn't true love. And that's a quote from one of my favorite books, The Alchemist, which really my mindset has been kind of like more in alignment with this idea of what an alchemist does, and a very general, my basic understanding of an alchemist is essentially finding raw materials and then trying to turn it into gold. And for me, that quote was impactful when I was thinking about what I wanted to share today, was because it's like, beware of the instant gratification and mental games of the secular world. That it's very easy, it's been very easy for me to want to latch. You know what time it is? That was my affirmation alarm. And it says, I have the energy and ability to sustain my efforts to manifest and co-create with the universe every day. I was, before my affirmation came through, I was saying, which maybe that was actually affirming what I was sharing, like a confirmation here of be aware of the instant gratification and the mental games of the secular world. Because for me, like, as I become more aligned with my divine alignment and divine purpose, I recognize how here in the devil's playground that things can come so quick. It's like really easy to like get fast food or to pop onto social media, or literally everything seems microwavable these days. So I share that in relation to this quote because the journey is a marathon, not a sprint, of coming to and this is my opinion, coming to recognize and realize and resonate with who it is that I am as a soul, not necessarily as a human in a bodysuit here. And the instant gratification part is that 5 senses of the secular dimension, and really wanting to put space between that. Yes, I can enjoy what is here because I am also here to play and have fun and bring joy and love and light and all that great stuff, while also knowing that I'm still a soul that has a divine purpose to be going towards. And I think that this is like directly related to like past relationships, where there have been relationships where I'm saying that I want to do something and I'm not being met with, I'm not even looking for validation. I'm just looking for the acknowledgement from a loving place, and people will project onto me of no, why, when in reality, if it is something that is giving me joy, bringing me joy and love and light, and is lighting me up, then for me that is something that is in alignment, rather than me trying to force myself into a relationship, force myself into a job, force myself into these different situations for the external validation. Okay, I got a few definitions here for the group. Keyword: codependency. The American Psychological Association has 2 definitions for codependency. The first is a noun: the state of being mutually reliant, for example, a relationship between 2 individuals who are emotionally dependent on one another. Been there, done that. And then the second one is an adjective, which is a dysfunctional relationship pattern in which an individual is psychologically dependent or controlled by, insert, I would say, narcissism, a person who has a pathological addiction, which can include alcohol or gambling. And I want to take this definition a little bit further and apply it to how codependency had showed up for me as not just emotional, it was financial and sexual, which provided me with the unlimited options of being energetically attracted to individuals who had narcissistic tendencies. And this, I do not have my own, this is my own lived experience, so this is where the point of view that I'm talking from. As a codependent, as a recovering codependent, and as a person who had been groomed as a young child, as my frontal lobe was still developing, to be a people pleaser, to be able to try to read the temperature of the room, because I was seeking that external validation. I was seeking that love from my caregivers. I was seeking that acknowledgement from my caregivers, that when I approached adulthood, I would say that I was not emotionally mature enough to be in a relationship. Period. And I think that now when I look back, I'm grateful again for those experiences, while I'm also like, dang, like I was very emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually immature to be taking on the experience of zippering my universe with somebody else. And that, it is what it is. I've learned my lessons. I'm able to share this out now. And I think that having these sorts of conversations of acknowledging of the past and being able to say like, okay, well, how can I compost this moving forward and support other people is really important, because it was a lesson that I was learning there in the moment. And a lot of repercussions of that energy, of those energetic exchanges across partners, have really impacted my life in many different ways. Yes, I have the lived experience, I have the knowledge, I have the know-how at this moment. However, there are also a lot of other residual things that happen, such as, you know, what is the financial impact of a codependent relationship? What is the emotional impact on a codependent relationship? What is the relational impact on friends and family and future partners of being in a codependent relationship if the codependent is experiencing narcissistic abuse or has a partner who exhibits a high level of narcissistic tendencies? Realistically, and this was something that I had journaled not too long ago, I was reflecting on these past relationships where I would say that like had those sorts of narcissistic tendencies, and recognizing that I was able to digest that as being normal due to the fact of how my caregivers treated me as a child, and what was being reflected back as my 3D. Kids are little sponges from 0 to 7, and people say even from 0 to 14 the brain is developing. I say that the brain is consistently developing, especially now as we're learning more about neuroplasticity. We're talking about how the frontal lobe is continuing to grow until the age of 25. There are so many opportunities throughout an individual's lifespan in those from 0 to 25 that really can impact of what seems normal, what is the status quo, what is everybody else doing, to what is actually healthy, what is actually supportive for the growth of an individual. And for me, I really have had to have willpower, discipline, interest to even say and identify, I am a recovering codependent. What can I do to get out of these behavioral patterns? Because I think it would have been very easy for me to just maintain in those experiences, especially because of a lot of the instant gratification that I was getting from that time. It's a dopamine hit. Like as a codependent, if my partner was not happy with something that I was doing and then they showered me with attention, I was like holding on. Yes, I have this bit of attention, and really what was just happening is that the cycle would just start over again. The cycle would just continue on. And it was emotional whiplash continuously being in those situations. And I know that for myself, I have also put other people through similar experiences. So I would like to say that I believe my karmic debt has been paid, because I am able to, like I said, compost these experiences and now share out with other people of like, hey, let's talk about this. And I take full accountability for my part in all of these past relationships, intimate, family, friends, business, in society, for being an emotional receptacle for others. And now I know that my boundaries and cutoff game is super strong, and I can express myself effectively, and I will not tolerate abuse, pushing of my boundaries, an inability to acknowledge that how do I want to say this? Like, what I do want to say is that I will not tolerate people not giving me a hard time for having self-love for myself, for having these boundaries, for having the awareness of that I am worthy and deserving of being in an experience and an energy exchange that is loving and kind and is not coming from a place of manipulation or retaliation or retribution. Period. The next keyword is enmeshment. The American Psychological Association, which quick side note, that's the APA, and if you have been in like social science college courses, when you're putting your citations in, the APA is the one who is like saying like this is how it's got to go. Just a little fun fact there. The APA defines enmeshment as a noun, a condition in which two or more people, typically family members, are involved in each other's activities and personal relationships to an excessive degree, thus limiting or precluding healthy interactions and compromising individual autonomy and identity. Oof. Just let that kind of set in for a little bit there. My childhood was full of enmeshed relationships, including my immediate family, and due to my caregiver's lack, this is in my opinion, due to my caregiver's lack of boundaries, also extended members of the family as well. There was just so much disharmony, dysregulation, dysfunction that was going on all of the time that it just like it was an enmeshed situation. And again, going back to like ways that my codependency has negatively impacted my life, one of them is financial, and that was like a major thing. Like when I reflect on like enmeshment in particular, of how I allowed myself radical accountability, how I allowed myself to be financially manipulated and also just overgiving in these areas for that wanting to be validated, to wanting to be loved, wanting to be like, money in my family is a currency of I'm going to abuse you and then I'm going to pay you off. I'm going to do things that are not harmonious. I'm just going to pay you off type thing. And that I realized was playing out like either I was the person that was doing that or I was on the receiving end of that as an adult. And one major, like this, man, like talk about like when all things come together, I recognized that this was happening to me at work, that I was in job situations where I was I was working so hard. I was like, I know that I'm worthy and deserving of this salary. Work, experiencing verbal, psychological, emotional abuse in the workplace, hostile work environments, and this is multiple. I've been in many different industries, so fashion, nonprofit, sales, like experiencing these sorts of like very intense emotional experiences at work, knowing that I am worthy, however, willing to accept what they were going to pay me for, like whatever the hourly rate was, whatever the salary rate was, working in my mind, convincing myself that at some point they're going to give me a higher pay, they're going to give me a pay raise, or they're going to acknowledge me in some certain way, some particular way, and then it not happening. And thankfully, for whatever reason, I was bestowed upon a very strong work life cutoff game, that after I would show myself and say like, these are all the things that I'll do, okay, where is the raise, where is like the perks, the added perks, or whatever it may be, and then people would just be like, well, I'm not going to actually give that to you, then I would say, peace out, Girl Scout, I'm not going to be working here anymore. And now in my life, I see how Lacey Phillips from To Be Magnetic, she talks about this all the time, how the energetics of money and the energetics of love are the same, like they're of the same energy experience. And for me, I was very, very strong in my boundaries at work, very, very weak in my boundaries and my personal relationships. So now I'm grateful because I am at the place of this recalibration where I am having this strength of boundaries in my work life, and now I also have it in my personal, relational, interpersonal relationships. Just want to take a moment of gratitude to myself for doing the work to get to this mindset, so I know that when I'm entering into experiences of these energetic exchanges, I'm doing so with eyes wide open, and I'm coming from a place of divine alignment and divine purpose, and that if somebody is not willing to respect my boundaries, then that's okay. I don't have to be their emotional receptacle, and that's in business and that's in relationships. I have the choice and the power and the self-respect and the self-love to say, thank you, it's a no, I'm going to move on. Whew. That was a little bit of a rampage there, and I'm glad that I got that off my chest. I'll tell you that. I didn't even know that I wanted to say all that. This is, as much as this experience for me has been drudging up a lot of stuff and becoming very activating for me, it's also like very fun for me to be able to share out these experiences that I've had and also be like, this is just my lived experience. Take what resonates and leave the rest, and also have it be a energetic exchange back to myself of these recognizing of these moments of, wow, like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing the very best that I can do, and I continue to expand and up level within my own universe. And I genuinely share this to say that may something that I say ignite and illuminate the light within you for your own healing journey. Because for me, where I am now, even though I am still, I'm not exactly where I want to be, I am grateful for where I am now in this time-space reality, because I have literally done the legwork, I have done the research, I have implemented, I have tried things out, I have experimented, and I'm here now, and I feel so much self-love and so much self-respect to be like, I did this, I'm doing this, I am actively engaging in the process of being the person that I say that I am, and having the opportunities to reflect that out and then have that be reflected back to me. Whoop. Okay, that was aggressive hand swipe, karate chopping. That I kind of forgot where I was. I'm just gonna loop this with, I just really am grateful that I have so much self-love and self-respect now, that I am also comfortable with sharing some of these things that I've gone through, because for a little bit of time, I was experiencing a high level of shame and guilt of, woe is me, that victimhood, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in the next part of my a little chit chat here about how shame and guilt was clouding my own judgment for a little bit of time, like as I was going through this healing journey, because I was thinking like, oh my gosh, how did I get here again? How did this happen to me? Why? Like being in this very like extreme victimhood, when in reality, when I go back to the person that I am, no wrong has been done. And when I am able to say that, I am able to release the expectation, I'm able to release the hold on any outcome, because the outcome is that I have inner peace, because I have been able to say no wrong has been done. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the blessing. Let me compost this and continue on my merry way of being on this journey of continuing to wake up from my spiritual amnesia. And that inner peace, I have never, this is like a new sensation in my body of inner peace. And now that I have it, I just want to support everybody with having it themselves. Because even if my 3D is reflecting back chaos, I can still be in the state, and I am still in the state of ultimate inner peace. And it is so blissful. It is so joyful. It is loving. It feels like my favorite type of weather, of literally being in a summertime day with 70-degree weather with a slight breeze in a hammock, sipping on some nice iced tea. Like, it feels that yummy and delicious, this sense of peace, of inner peace, and to know that I have been able to cultivate that, and I continue to cultivate that inside myself. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, universe, for giving me the tools and the time and the energy and the desire to even figure that out, so I can be here now. Because I feel like no matter what is happening to me, again, like, I am able to still remain very grounded, because I am so peaceful. I will not let anybody mess with my peace anymore. And that is why I'm grateful that can say that now I am a recovering codependent and not a codependent, because of the fact that one of the things that I allowed to be eroded all the time was my inner peace, because I was always trying to gauge, this person might go over there, so let me run over there, or this person's gonna need this, so let me go try to do that, and overexpend and pour from an empty cup. My cup is filled with fresh water and it's overflowing. And I know that even for my own self-reflection, because I'm here now able to share that fresh water with each and every one of you watching this video. And I'm just like so freaking grateful that I am able to be in this position. It is truly blissful, stratospherically blissful. And I am so, so thankful. Yes, I am so grateful. Okay, let's keep this fun experience. I've realized I've been using the word fun a lot, and honestly, in my mind's eye, every time I use the word fun, I literally just think of SpongeBob. F is for friends that do stuff together, U is for you and me. And I like to joke with people all the time that SpongeBob raised my generation. I think that there is a SpongeBob episode that can literally teach all the values or all the morals, and there's so many fun little like songs and moments that are just like, okay, hashtag when both your caregivers worked very long hours and the TV became the babysitter. It's a fact of life, and I'm not ashamed of it, because I have a lot of pop culture references that I can share to hopefully be another type of language to connect with people on this journey. I really feel like I'm in like a lot of flow. I'm a very chatty person to begin with. It's actually something that I was bullied about when I was a child, which people used to call me motor mouth. And blessings to the fact that even though that I had that experience of like being bullied for chatting all the time, and shout out to Mr. Ryan, I never got in trouble at school except for in Mr. Ryan's class. Like, he would kick me out of class like on the regular, because he'd just be like, you are talking too much. And I would just be like, I am sorry. And now I realize that because as the fact that I am a teacher, not a practicing teacher, have been a teacher, I now understand how disruptive I was. And I'm also grateful that I had all of that practice, because I have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of chatting. And here I am, chit-chatting away. Okay, let's talk about the last part of this codependency. Let's talk about my inner child, little a, and where I've been is not where I am today. And I was quite literally allergic to accountability. It did not always align with my mindset of being the victim. And my victimhood mentality came a lot from being a child in my childhood, because for me, I didn't really understand 100% like always what was going on, yet I always did feel like, why are the adults coming after the children? Like, for me, it never felt right. It always felt very uncomfortable. And for me, I just would go right into the victimhood. Even if I was talking back, even if I was, sassing people, because I was very sassy as a child, which is something that I'm glad that I have still maintained, being a little sassy, that I didn't understand, rather, I didn't know how to verbalize that I didn't understand why the caregivers and the adults in my life were causing so much chaos. So for me to cope with that, I just took on victimhood. Well, it's not my fault. I'm reacting like this because of this person. Or why are you blaming me? I didn't do it. This person did it. So it's interesting. And Colin Tipping, the author of Radical Forgiveness, a revolutionary 5-stage process to heal relationships, let go of anger and blame, and find peace in any situation, which this book is very good. Very, very good. It was actually one of the books that I would say that really helped me solidify the sense of, before knowing about A Course in Miracles, that no wrong has been done. They talk like that. A lot of that language and that kind of mindset is in this book. And he expresses, our spiritual evolution depends heavily upon our recovery from our worst addiction, our addiction to the victim archetype. Here we go, the truth bomb, right? Which traps us in the past and saps our life energy. The inner child represents nothing but a metaphor for our woundedness and a cutesy form of victim consciousness. Well, Colin, rest in power. you're not wrong. He's not wrong. Because what I was just explaining is it was a maladaptive coping mechanism for me as a child to be a victim. And then because it was something that was like continuously happening in my environment while I was having my brain forming, I did not know that when I was going out into the world that not everybody was having the same experiences in that sense or perceive the world in the same way. So then I really took on the victim mentality because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be shamed. I didn't want to be bullied. So I just became the victim while also still being very sassy and like yelling back and having these angry outbursts that, yeah, my inner child, really little a, love my inner child, we go on play dates frequently, that it is a cutesy form of victim consciousness. And I think that really also comes from the fact that I didn't know until I knew, and now I know, so I can do better. And my codependent mindset was an unauthorized, energetic permission slip to not take accountability for my actions, my reactions, and consequences of my choices. And a lot of times, I was putting myself in these bizarre moments, these bizarre experiences and energetic exchanges because I was so desperate for external validation. I was so desperate for people to love me and to accept me that I was willing to sacrifice myself, my inner world, to attempt to get to fill in from the outside. And guess what? It did not work for me. It did not work for me. And instead of accepting the outcomes of my ways, I would immediately revert to being the victim and woe is me, and crowdsourcing for others to externally show me that I was right, when really that I was seeking with healthy boundaries and external accountability. And I included that phrase of healthy boundaries because this is like a proven thing in child psychology, that kids thrive best when they have boundaries, and that they also have the ability to have some freedom within those boundaries. If there are too rigid, no good. It's like Goldilocks. Too rigid, no bueno. Too loosey-goosey, also no bueno. The sense of having that safe foundation of a secure attachment to the caregivers of there are boundaries and there are repercussions if these boundaries are not adhered to. However, within those boundaries, there is freedom to explore, there is freedom to experiment, there's freedom to be able to develop the self in a very healthy, nourishing way. I was watching, yesterday, I was watching the live stream of Temple of Anu, and they were speaking about disruption, and really just saying that there's a personal accountability and space and grace to accept that this evolution is a part of this human experience, that up-leveling and expanding is a direct correlation to the ability to acknowledge and heal the victim mentality to radical accountability. That disruption will come when there is an up-level, a changing of representatives, a mindset, values, or behaviors. It is part of the process to be given the opportunities to be the person that you say that you are. Choices will need to be made. Will your mindset be that of transmuting and releasing past experiences, or staying stuck in blame and chaos? Also, I really appreciated that they said this, that acknowledging, because I was talking about this yesterday, and the day before, that acknowledging that the delayed reaction from choices of 3 years or 30 years ago, those are going to manifest in some capacity. However, when the reaction from the choices meet in the present moment, there is no expectation that who I was then is who I am now. And therefore, it gives me a new opportunity. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to be the most excited to be dealing with something that's from 30 years ago, 3 years ago. However, because of my growth, because of my composting of who I am and where I am and the change and the evolution of my mindset, I'm able to approach the situation from a new point of view, which will, praying that experience and this new insight and new perspective will actually allow me to compost it to not come back around. That essentially that I've learned the lesson and that I've been able to apply my new skill set, my new toolbox to this old experience to be able to clear it out, work through it, clear it out, and keep it moving, and have it be a lesson rather than, have it be a blessing rather than another form of a lesson. I really do feel that, like, the universe will whisper the lesson, give that little, like, sort of soft, like, I'm going to test you. We're going to see how you're going to show up. Are you going to be the person you're going to be? And then whatever that choice is, may it be in alignment with that highest aligned reality of that time. Because then I think that the universe goes from, like, a whisper to, like, okay, we're going to talk regular. We're outside of the library. We're going to talk about this now. And it's just going to continue and continue and continue. And I think I talked about this yesterday, to the point where if the lesson is not learned, there will be an earthquake, in the sense of the universe will be like, I have literally been giving you all these opportunities to get yourself together, and you're not getting yourself together. So now I need to intervene in a magnitude, which that's a behavioral term, which is the force of the behavior, in a magnitude that is going to disrupt completely your lived experience, your point in time, space, reality, to say, hey, I've been trying to get you to learn this lesson. I've been trying to get you to inspect why you're bringing this into your life again and again, and you're not doing that. So now the universe is like, I gave you your free will, and now I'm going to drop the sledgehammer, and we're going to talk about this. And that, to me, is what an earthquake is. And sometimes the earthquake's, very helpful, because maybe I was just genuinely not aware. And sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm just ignoring the signs because I am in that instant gratification of the secular dimension, and I'm not really interested in changing my ways. However, knowing that I will be dealing with the repercussions at an incremental increase rate and magnitude until I am able to learn the lesson. Because no matter what, I don't ever feel like the universe is punishing me. I don't think that it's here to be punitive. What it is here to do is guide me on the journey to be in alignment with my highest self, and to really accomplish the task of why my soul even came earthside, to play this game of life. And sometimes in the past, and definitely like when I was drinking, I was able to tune out all of those signs because I was sedated through tequila. And I was able to shrug it off. Now that I'm sober, I'm just like, well, okay, I hear all of the signs, and I don't want to be yelled at. I want to keep it on a whisper, and I want to keep moving on this journey very kindly with the universe in co-creation, making me think back to that affirmation alarm that came through, that I have the energy to co-create with the universe, my highest aligned reality. And I really feel like I'm embodying that now, because I don't necessarily need to be earthquaked anymore. I hope. We'll see. I'm evolving. You never know what's going to come through. However, I'm more receptive to the signs and synchronicities that the universe is providing me, and I feel like I am very much in communication with my higher power, with my ancestors, that if something were to come to the point of an earthquake, it really is not, I wouldn't even say that I'm being punished. I think it would be that I'm literally being picked up from one timeline and thrown across the way to another timeline, because that's what is meant to happen at that time space reality. Okay, so the only person who can change is me. If I enter the mindset to change someone else, I know that it is a behavioral patterning of my lower frequency of codependency, and that I am using these signs, these thoughts, as an alert to figure out why am I having resistance to something? Why is this being reflected back to me, or even coming up, that I'm trying to act in a way that is not in alignment of who I say I am? And being aligned with my highest self has taught me that as I heal and reprogram the relationship with my inner child, I thrive in my universe with values and boundaries created by me, knowing my own personal limits, and being able to explore a secure connection with source, because I'm no longer seeking the external validation from people. I am going to source first to say, like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And this is one of my favorite quotes that Queen Amara says, because this helps me a lot. The devil is the author of confusion. And I use this as a gauge that when I'm trying to decide which direction I'm going to go in, literally, the devil is the author of confusion. It is not this 3D experience, this secular experience is the whole game, in my opinion, is overcoming the confusion, overcoming the instant gratification, overcoming these illusions in this dimension that are in direct, what's the word? I was going to say contrarian. It's not the word. This is a word. In direct opposition to me being on a path of ease and flow to succeed in my journey of fulfilling my divine purpose. That took a little bit to get out. Thanks for sticking with me. So, in conclusion, codependency. These are my suggestions for engaging and embarking on what is codependency mean to me in my universe. Determine what your boundaries are for yourself, with others, with your environment. What does a reciprocal energy exchange look like in your universe? And this is really subjective to everybody. And I'm going to share this example because I think there's a lot of different content right now that's been going around with, like dating, in the sense of if a reciprocal energy could look like one person is paying for the meal, and another reciprocal energy looks like somebody that people are going 50-50. Another example, another reciprocal energy could look like one person's paying for the dinner, one person's paying for the tip. Another reciprocal energy could be that one person is paying for the dinner and the tip at one place, and there's already a plan to go to get dessert somewhere else. There is a quantum possibilities that you can pluck from the quantum field to determine what does a reciprocal energy exchange look like for you. What are your values? What are your morals? What are your expectations? So that way you know that when you're engaging with somebody else, whether or not that person is going to be equally yoked and along for the ride in a way that you are having a similar perspective. And that doesn't mean if somebody's saying that they want to go 50-50 and you want to pay for the dinner and the other person pay for the tip, doesn't mean that you're not necessarily energetically aligned. That gives an opportunity for me to be the person that I say that I am and use my nonviolent communication skills to talk about it and not just dismiss the experience. Embrace the disruption. When engaging in a new mindset, new behaviors, new boundaries, the universe will give you ample opportunities to be the person you say that you are. Compassion and space and grace is so imperative for oneself to be able to continue to pour in the fresh water and also be able to navigate what is happening in the 3D and also to navigate what's happening internally, because it's a whole new world that is going on the inside, and it's the shaking, it's the earthquaking, it's the recalibrating to this new mindset, this new version of whoever you are. If it's a new version of me, I've never been that version before, so I don't have a perspective to be able to say, like, this version of me is this. I am manifesting that experience, yet, again, this is theory. I've not necessarily been able to put it into practice yet, to be able to say, like, this is my new mindset, this is my new behavior, this is who I am, let me be that person. I need the opportunities and the universal test to be able to be like, yep, that is who I am. And if I'm not, having that space and grace to be like, okay, what went differently than what I thought I was manifesting, and how can I, when this test comes back around, how can I continue to show up as the person that I say that I am? Also, not to be consumed with guilt, shame, or negative self-talk. That's something that I'm definitely going to talk about in one of these other videos about the negative self-talk, because I have literally been my biggest critic. The nastiest voice has been my own voice. And something that I've learned through the Hoffman process is it's okay that I have a representative that wants to tear me down, because the reason why they're there is because there's a point in time in my childhood where I needed that person to come up to protect me, because maybe there was a perceived danger, maybe there was a perceived situation that I was not going to be safe if I was to show up as my divine, dope, radiant being of light self, that I needed to be in that protective mode. And some tools for the toolbox are the trauma release exercise, the TRE, to help move the energy from the bodysuit. meditation, being able to tune into the inner universe and connect with source and the ancestors to get that divine guidance, to really be able to say like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. What do you guys think I should do? And then ask in the way in which you communicate with your higher power to give you those responses. For me, I watch a lot of YouTube. So for me, a way to communicate with me would be that if I have a question, this is just hypothetical, like, what should I name my cat? Then I would ask that and then be in the receiving mode that the universe will communicate with me through a YouTube video or even a song to be like, this is what you should name your cat. And then one major thing that I learned actually from To Be Magnetic, because I was listening to a podcast with Lacey Phillips, and she introduced me to CODA, which is known as Codependency Anonymous. And man, I think that everyone should have to go through CODA. That's how strongly I feel about the programming, the peer support, and the overall tools that I have gained, and to be able to, just like this, listen to other people's stories, see how they're navigating different things, and then using those skills and tools and applying them into my own life. It is truly a shame-free, guilt-free, accountability, yes, place of, as a codependent, how can I continue to enhance my life as a recovering codependent? And some people are still identifying as being codependent, depending on where they are on their journey. For me, being a recovered codependent, being in that environment of, essentially, like, these are my people. They know what it feels like. And I will tell you that some of the coolest relationships that have energy exchanges that I have been able to experience has been because of my transparency of being a person who goes to CODA meetings, and other people being like, oh my gosh, you go to CODA? I go to CODA too. And it's just this sense of recognition of, whoa, you're doing the work, I'm doing the work to overcome this programming to really be able to show up in these different relationships in a very healthy, mindful, and loving way. And a not a maladaptive way. Really putting in the time and the effort to implement these tools. So, with that, everyone, I wish you a grand rising, a grand afternoon, a grand evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are watching this video. Blessings and abundance, love and light. Thank you for spending your time with me. And yeah, if you have anything you want to add, I'm going to say this, put it in the comments. I'm interested in hearing how codependency has influenced you in your own life. And maybe it's not necessarily even that you're the codependent. Maybe you have someone in a close relationship that you can see are having or reflecting back some codependency tendencies. And how are you navigating that? What are the tools that you're using? Thank you so much for being here. This has really been a delight, and I'm so grateful that I was able to show up for myself today and record this video. And with that, I will see you tomorrow.